Good morning. Let's talk about sex, baby. This is a tricky topic, right? If you've watched many of my videos, you'll understand I'm very much about mind, body, soul, and that we can't feel better in our life, no matter what we've got going on, unless we address all three legs of the stool. Our sex life is just simply one of those legs. It's pleasure, okay? We're meant to actually enjoy and have pleasure in our life. That's why it's on this channel. So if this is an area of your life that is discouraging for you, and of course, it would be for many because of the aches, the pains, the hypermobile joints, all the things, then I encourage you to watch this video through and see what you take away from it. In preparation for this video, I went hunting all over YouTube to find a similar video. Thought everybody's done every video. I could not find one that was lipedema and sex drive. So this will either be very welcome or nobody will watch it. Either way, I'm good because I think this is a taboo topic that needs to be brought into the mainstream. And it's something that, whether we talk about it or not, many women, particularly with issues like lipedema, are struggling with. I invited Jenny on because Jenny is in a field of work that I had never heard of until I met her in India in 2018. We were both at an Ayurvedic hospital for 4 weeks, and our very first trip into the town in the little bus, I asked her, what did she do? And the unraveling of that conversation blew my mind. I didn't know that this service existed in the world. And we've stayed in contact ever since. So I was super excited when I reached out to her and said, would you do a video and talk about lipedema? After discussing with her what lipedema was and how it affected us. And as I was telling her about it before the conversation that you're about to see, she was like, oh, I know people that have that. So Lipedema Awareness Month has worked from my perspective because she's now aware, and perhaps down the track, she can make other people aware as well. So if you're discouraged by this part of your life and you would like to improve it, change it, or even just be open to that one day that you can, you don't have to do any of this now. This is the conversation for you, and I really hope you enjoy it. Welcome, Jenny. Thank you for coming on and talking to anybody out there listening to this very interesting subject. I would like to start off by asking you if you can explain what a sexologist is, what the fembodiment method is, and how it all kind of works together with what you do for people.
Sure. First of all, thank you, Kylie, for reaching out and inviting me on.
My
We've known each
pleasure.
other for a long time, and I
Yep.
really admire the work that you're doing for people in the world.
Thank you.
So what is, well, I call myself a holistic sexologist because I have a more holistic approach around sexuality. But basically, we're educators where we help people to understand how their body works, how their energy works. We help them, I think, really to have better education. And because in my background, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and actually rewiring my brain to help myself when I was very sick in my later 40s. And that's why I learnt clinical hypnotherapy. I weave that into my work as a sexologist too, because what I know is you can't change anything in your body. You can't really heal or look after anything in your body, including your sexuality, if you don't have neural pathway to it. So my big thing is that I educate on women's anatomy, pelvic health, all of that, but I actually get them to create that brain chemistry for themselves. So not only do they know what a perineum sponge might be in their body, or a G spot or a C spot or their cervix, I actually have practices and processes where a woman can actually learn how to rewire her brain to that And she can actually think about that part of her body and know when something's going wrong.
Wow. And I love that you talk about neural pathways because I talk about neural pathways all the time when it comes to forming new habits and letting go of old
Yeah.
ones. And I
And
love that.
and what you don't have neural pathway to, you won't look after.
No.
And pelvic health is, I think, really important when women are aging or when they're, going through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond, because there's such a disconnection when women stop bleeding or perhaps they have problems or whatever. And your pelvic, your cervix, everything is linked to other organs in your body. And yeah, so I'm just really passionate. I think that's how I weave holistic sexuality in with integrated pelvic health. Um, and, that's how I work with clients. I teach them how to do their own cervix de-armoring, their own vulva mapping, which is a really important thing to do to bring that brain chemistry. Um, I just want women to be really self-empowered. So, of course, they still go at different times and seek medical advice and things like that.
Mm.
But it's really good when you know your body from the inside out.
Oh, I'm a firm believer in knowing our own bodies. So, from a lipedema perspective, a hormone perspective, chronic
Yeah.
disease perspective, which then often trickles down to self-esteem in the bedroom and how you look and comfort and, hypermobile joints that maybe don't bend the way they could, that kind of thing. What's your experience in that realm and how can somebody sort of improve that area of their life if they're discouraged from that perspective?
Okay, so I think the hardest part for if your body has changed like that, or if you have something that is lowering your libido, your energy, and your self-worth, I think the safest place to start and for you to reconnect with the body you now have. So it's almost like maybe the body you had before you got to that
Lipedema,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like your brain is confused. Why doesn't, why is your body looking like that? And how could I possibly still have somebody attracted to me or that I would feel attracted to them? And I think the really safest, most healing way is to start with yourself first and find out how does my body like to be touched now that I've got that change in my body. Because earlier before we started the talk this morning, you were talking about how certain areas of the body can be quite
It's
painful
also
and
called, yeah, lipedema is also called painful fat syndrome. So,
yeah.
particularly in areas like the upper arms, if they have it there, which I did, legs, trunk,
Yeah,
it's painful.
so those parts of the body previously might have really enjoyed touch or even being looked at. So now it's like a reprogramming of your body, but you start there first, mapping out the parts of your body. Oh, actually, that doesn't feel so good with a hand anymore, but I wonder what a feather would feel like
Mm,
being touched on that part of the
interesting.
body. I'm wondering whether big firm touch is going to be like, and so now maybe I need to see, oh, what would slower, almost like feather touch.
Mm,
It's like the thing I know as a holistic sexualist, a sexologist, is that as human beings, we haven't really been educated well around our sexuality. We haven't. And I don't think it's really got that much better through the generations, to be
I agree.
honest.
Yeah.
Um, and so we don't really understand. We just think that it's all about genitals, that orgasms are all about genitals. And actually, that's not true. And we limit our capacity to feel pleasure, whether we after birth, after an operation, or through a change in our bodies all sorts of sickness and things. And what happens is we limit that by our imagination and what we don't know. And a sexologist is there to maybe make suggestions. I'm
Mm.
wondering, I wonder what if that doesn't feel so good anymore, what could you do that might feel better or might feel better now that, we'll just use an arm, for instance, has changed. So,
Is there a point before that, or is this the point? Like, I can't quite work out in my head. So, say your self-esteem is in the toilet,
yeah.
because of how you feel about your body now, and you felt like it's
But yes,
betrayed
that's
you and all
that's
that.
linked to another person. Your self-esteem sexually goes low if it's related to body because it's about another person seeing the way your body looks when
Ah,
you take your
okay.
clothes off. If you can reconnect to your body, if you can learn to trust your body, if you know your no, know your yes, and that has to start with you. Like,
Mm,
for instance, you coming to me, Kylie, in that situation,
mm,
me touching you is not going to help you. But me saying to you, Kylie, show me how you could touch your arm differently so that you could even remotely feel a little bit of pleasure. Because you see, you have brain chemistry to your arm. I don't have brain chemistry to your arm. And the
interesting.
body knows there's a fear in the body that no one else is going to touch your arm now that it's painful.
Does
And
that
so,
chemistry change? Like, because I've had my arms, had surgery on my arms, and a
yeah,
lot of people with lipedema do actually have the surgery to remove the lipedema.
yeah.
Does that brain chemistry change after a surgery like that?
It does. So now you've got to reprogram your brain with the new arm.
Ah,
So
interesting.
what might have felt good before may not be, that program won't be there anymore. So now you've got the opportunity. I see this as, a fantastic thing. You can recreate your own pleasure.
Mm,
And it might be, like it might be experimenting with feathers or warm breath or there's so many things. Most people just think that sex is penetration.
mm,
It's not. That's a very small part of sex. Sex is mapping your body. I mean, our body's covered in all these other spots that we can actually orgasm from that are not internal or on our vulva. I'm specifically
mm.
talking about women.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And most of my clients that come in one-on-one sessions, they're like, oh my God, like really? I didn't, recently I had a client who thought she was deformed because she'd had children, she was going through menopause, she'd never looked at her vulva in the mirror, she'd been broken up from her husband for a long time, and she was about to date again. And she came to me because she was just so worried. She said, something's wrong. I had a look down there the other day, and I'm telling you, like it's all sticking out. It's this, it's that, right? Because that's what
Yeah,
your brain will tell
yeah,
you, because it doesn't look like it did before children and when she was
yeah.
younger. And I did like a pelvic mapping with her, but first of all, I took her through all the parts. She looked in the mirror and I said, that's this, that's that, right? And then I said, now just squeeze your pelvic floor for me. And the truth was, she's got a really amazing pelvic floor. So the one
Mm,
thing that hasn't changed for her after menopause and babies and all of those things, what she was seeing, because she'd never really looked at her anatomy before in the mirror when she was squeezing her pelvic floor, she was actually seeing what a healthy pelvic floor does to your whole vulva. Now she's
mm.
got brain chemistry to it,
Yeah,
right?
she's got an
And I
attachment.
followed her
Yeah.
up and she just said, oh my God, Jenny, you have no idea. She said, you're amazing. Like just in that one session, the gift you've given me. And I
Mm.
recently went on a date and it was amazing.
Isn't that's fantastic? That's a great
And
story.
that's what I'm saying, bringing
Mm.
it back to what we're talking about. I think that when if you are unwell and your body's changing, your sex life doesn't have to fall away. It just needs to change a bit,
Mm,
just like your body has. Like to me, it's pretty straightforward. It's like we age and change our bodies anyway, don't we? Whether we've
yeah.
got an illness or not, right? And we have to modify our sex life to that. Like I'm 67, so your vaginal walls of a woman that's my age are thinner. So the kind of sex, hard and fast sex, it's very difficult for women my age and stage of life to do that. And it's actually not good for our pelvises, our pelvic health
Mm,
either. So it's like relearning slow sex,
yeah, yeah.
or even learning to adjust our bodies, because our bodies change. Like you were saying, there's certain things that you can't do with the lippy.
Oh, absolutely. And also, and by the way, yes, she did say 67. Jenny looks remarkably young. For those people who have not met her, I'm used to seeing Jenny like this, so I know that she looks amazing. Yes. So, what I would, sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. Um, what I'd be interested to know is if you understand, because with many women with lipedema, they have hypermobile joints that come with
Yeah.
the disease. Does that affect the pelvis in some way when it comes to this kind of thing?
I think that there would be certain sexual positions if you were having sex with another person.
Mm,
I think that, yes, you would definitely, like that would be, it's a little bit of not going in hard, but
mm,
it's a little bit of, oh, let's try that. Oh, no, that doesn't feel right. That's painful. But again, that's education.
yeah.
Because maybe your body isn't going to be able to be in certain positions like it was before. And
It's
again, this is where I say, I know it's so foreign because we learn about our sexuality by somebody else touching us or somebody else
yeah.
doing
This is
to
not a
us.
learned thing. None of us have
Yeah.
sat in
So
classes.
this is
Yeah.
like the hardest part. I know for the women that I work with, I say to them, right, okay, you're doing a 6-month program with me. So half of that, I'm going to teach you around how to have solo sex and how to find out what way your body enjoys sex the most, what way your body feels pleasure in the best way. Because there are lots of women who are just overweight too. I mean, that happens on the other side of menopause. And there's just certain positions they can't sit in,
Mm, mm.
and it's very, very, they'll endure the pain of that to keep the other person happy.
Which can't be a good experience.
No, well, I
Yeah.
can't see how it's good for your body either.
Mm, mm.
So it's about education, it's about experimenting, it's about trusting that no matter what size you are, what age you are, what illness you might have, or your body changing, as you said, it's about knowing that sex should change anyway. It's not, your sexuality is fluid. As in what I did in my 20s, I could still sort of do in my 30s, but in my 40s, when I was, a couple of kids later, Caesars,
Mm.
episiotomies,
All the
there's
things.
certain things that just didn't work anymore. I've
Mm.
got a retroverted uterus, so
Which
there's
is
only
what?
a retroverted uterus. So mine tilts the opposite way to
Okay.
normal. So that means there are certain positions for me that are incredibly painful if I'm having penetrative sex. So I had to learn how to modify that
Which a
because
lot
why
of
would I?
women wouldn't even think. They just think
No,
there's
that's
something wrong
right.
with them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's why having somebody that you can go to, particularly the integrated pelvic health, that's what I'm most passionate about because going to somebody that can actually teach you how to understand your body and how you can move your body. What's right for you may not be right for every other vulva. And by the way, there isn't a vulva that looks the same anyway. That's
Mm.
just programming and that's porn. We've got this belief that all women's vulvas look the same, but I've worked with hundreds of them, and I'm here to tell you,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen one that looks like another one.
Wow. And because gynecologists and the like, they don't teach you anything about your anatomy, do they? They're just there to.
Well, I think they have their role. They're there when something changes in your body, like if you become more acidic and you have a pap smear that says something's not right
So
or
the physical
whatever.
health,
I
yeah.
think they have their role. But I remember quite a few years ago when I was doing my sexological bodywork training, the idea was that there was a hope that they would train sexological body workers to work in doctors' surgeries. So when a
Mm,
woman came in, meaning the ideal for me, if a woman comes in, to have an examination, first of all, I would be asking her if she wanted to put on some gloves or use her hands, give her some lube, and I would get her to be just gently stroking and running her hands through her vulva because so the arousal can happen, so everything can plump up, so that when something is put into her vagina, the arousal has happened so that the vagina lengthens, which is going to make it much more pleasurable when someone puts a swab in.
yeah.
Um, and that way she's in control. Her body is getting aroused because that's non-sexual. When you touch parts of your genitals, you don't necessarily have to be turned on, but your body will just naturally arouse. Everything plumps up.
Do
And of
you have a
course,
lot of, sorry, keep going.
that sort of was a little bit of the idea, I think, but medicos were not cottoning
Mm,
on to that. And now I believe a couple of my clients have told me they do their own swab now. You don't,
really?
yeah, they don't. This is in Victoria. A
Mm.
couple of them have told me, no, they just give me like a long stick with a bit of cotton wool on the end, and I'm supposed to put it in. And a couple of them actually said to me, I don't even know if I'm doing it right. And I thought, well, that's
That
interesting.
is interesting.
Yeah, because it feels a little bit dismissive to me that
Do you think that's the rise in the whole lawsuits and things like
well,
that?
that's why I think that's why you used to always have a nurse in the room, but now you don't. I guess for costs and things.
Mm,
But that's why in my role, they kind of were creating the sexological body work training was so that we could do that. We could,
mm,
and we can also teach the client, teach the woman when she's coming, what they're going to do is they're going to shift your Bartholomew glands. You've got quite small inner lips or outer lips, so you might need to hold that open a little. And the first thing I would be saying to the doctor or nurse that's putting it in, and please make sure that you warm up the
no,
speculum,
I don't think I've ever
right?
had a
Because why
time
would
that
you
they
put a
didn't.
cold one of those
I
in and then just
know.
rip you open?
Yeah. How many
Yeah,
women struggle, and whether or not you've dealt with or, worked with women that have chronic diseases,
yeah.
how many struggle to even just touch themselves? Because I know from a naturopathic
Very much.
standpoint,
Because
yeah.
very much. Even you mean because it's uncomfortable?
Well, I'm going to use enemas as an example. Most people, when you say enemas, they go, oh, because they don't want to touch themselves, basically. They think that's wrong, dirty, not right, whatever.
Correct.
So is it a similar thing?
Yes, and that's partly because you have no brain chemistry to your vulva.
Gotcha.
So, I teach women that, you should be looking at least once a month in a mirror at your vulva because it's your role to notice when something is not right and then you go to a doctor, not the other way
Mm,
around.
yeah.
Right? And you can see when something's changed. And just for them to actually learn their anatomy, unfortunately, most of our anatomy is made up of male names. My husband sent me a great article the other day about how there's a bit of controversy at the moment because all our parts are pretty much named after men. and how it's about time we actually started to name our parts after women doctors and gynecologists
Give me
and,
an example, because I don't know what parts are named after men.
well, Bartholomew, all of them. Your
Oh, really? They're all just
Bartholomew,
named after male doctors that
yeah,
said this is
yeah,
what this
your
is.
Bartholomew glands, which, you know, which is really, you know, we start off in utero, we all have a penis. And then what happens is for women, everything tucks in
Mm.
and goes up. So Bartholomew glands are basically testicles
Yeah,
and they
right.
sit just under the skin. But when they're, sorry,
You go for your life.
my clitoris is up here, and when they're being massaged like that, they actually engorge. And what all of that is doing in the perineum sunge, which is just inside and down on the vagina, if that isn't stimulated, everything doesn't start to accommodate receiving something inside. So a vagina lengthens, it becomes a little bit narrower, you know. So
So
that's
if
what I
you've got a
mean. Sex
woman
eating, yeah.
that has painful fat syndrome, doesn't feel good about herself, there's no foreplay whatsoever, then sex is just not going to be a good experience, is it?
Well, any woman should, it takes 45 minutes to warm. That's just average. Every woman's different. But what we see in movies where it's all just, you know, rip your clothes off, boom, it's all
Let's go.
happening. The truth is, not only is the penis desensitizing all the capacity, you know, with all the rubbing, all the capacity, all those little nerves to be sandpapered down and not feel as good.
Mm,
Um, but it's almost impossible for a vagina to actually feel its full capacity and a vulva of pleasure because
wow.
everything, and it takes 45 minutes for everything to fill up with blood and be, you know,
Yeah.
fully engorged.
Mm,
I mean,
mm.
imagine we should be teaching young girls that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, how we all say, oh, we didn't learn taxes in school and we didn't learn this is just another, like, we all did sex class in school, but it was very limited. It was all, you know. So this to me is kind of mind
And
blowing.
and how do you know, how do you know your no and your yes? Like you were saying with the painful
Mm.
fat, how does the other person know how to touch you
If
if
you
you
don't know
don't know how
how.
to tell them?
Well, that's the next question. If you figure it out for yourself, how do you then communicate that?
Well, I think that in the world of coupleship, my experience is working with lots of couples. Neither of them like being told what to do. So I teach more, it's a thing called, which I learned from one of my great teachers, Betty Martin. I believe she didn't create it, but she kind of heard
Finessed
about
it.
this game and finessed it, and but it does underpin. She teaches, you know, agency and consent, the wheel of consent it's called, but a thing called bossy massage. So the timer goes on for a couple of minutes, 3 minutes. I think it used to be called the 3 minute game. And because I just say I was that person and I had that painful fat syndrome
Mm,
on my
mm.
body,
Yep.
I know how to touch it. So then with my partner, my partner would say, right, for 3 minutes, you're going to be able to receive exactly what you want. How would you like me to touch you on your body for 3 minutes? She explains it. The partner either agrees or, you know, because you must have agency and
Mm,
consent. So the
mm.
partner might say, sure, I'm happy to do that. Or the partner might say, I'm happy to do that, but I'm not happy to do that. And then, is there anything else I could do? So it's like a whole beautiful exchange. And then once everything's decided, the timer goes on, that woman can actually relax, whether she's sitting or laying, and she can receive only what she asked for.
Wow. That's
She
a cool
doesn't have to
game.
worry about hands going anywhere else or suddenly the other person thinking, oh, you know, I think I'll go a bit deeper. She didn't say that, but because that's what happens. That's
Yeah.
what We don't do it maliciously, we do it unconsciously
Yeah, we do what we
because
think the
we
person
think
will like,
that's right. And
but
the
it's
truth
what we like.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, and a person with a penis does not have brain connection to a vulva.
Mm.
Just remember that. They don't. So they only will touch you how it feels good for their genitals.
This is kind of like, because I say this in human design, I've learned that nobody knows the real you, because the minute you come into the same aura of somebody else, you form a new design, right?
Yeah.
So where we talk about, oh, nobody knows me, well, nobody's meant to know you, because the real you is just you on your own. So it makes perfect sense that the only person that could tell you what you like and what you don't like is you.
Yeah. And then
Like,
if you bring it down even to an atomic level, um, you have all of most of your things that you can have really deep orgasms are internal, right? Person with a penis, everything is external, and they only have a quarter of the amount of the bits that we have as you know, that
really?
identify as women. Yeah, they do.
Mm.
You know, we have G spots, C spots, we can have a cervix orgasm, you can have a G spot orgasm, you can have an energetic orgasm just by running up and down the Bartholomew glands, the clitoris fills up completely, and you can just have an orgasm. And you know,
Interesting.
that's what I mean. There's like,
But you know what you just said? You said the guys are external, right? And
yeah,
the women are
yeah,
internal. I learned many years ago that how we do things, the men are internally driven, the women are externally driven from a goal perspective, because the men are like, oh, I'm going to bed, right? Goal, hunter gatherer, go to bed. Women, oh yeah, I'm going to bed. Oh, there's that's got to be put away. That's got to be put away, and we'll take 40 minutes to get to bed because she's externally driven. But from a,
except where did women learn that from?
I don't know. Tell me more,
Mm.
because I just,
I work with a lot of corporate women, and
yeah.
they say that they have learnt their behaviors from the men they worked with.
So you don't think men are externally driven?
I think they're goal driven because of their anatomy. They masturbate and they ejaculate.
Oh, purpose done. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
Whereas when you really allow your body to be fully, a woman's body to be fully aroused in a relaxed state, a woman doesn't need an end point.
No, that's true. Yeah. I've always found that fascinating, that men stop and that women can kind of keep going.
Yeah. So we have mostly, I shouldn't speak for you, but a lot of women I've spoken to have mostly had goal orientated sex. And the way you do sex is the way you do life. So it's
Interesting.
learned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if you're used to having sex where it's, it's thrust, 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 end result, your body, your pelvis gets programmed for that. So when I'm trying to help a woman reprogram her pelvis, it does take time because she has brain chemistry to goal
Mm.
orientated sex.
Because that would
So
be
it's
most women, wouldn't it? That would be most situations.
I can't generalize,
No,
but
but
yeah,
yeah.
most and even young girls these days I've treated or I've worked with quite a few young girls that have been traumatized because they've been told to watch porn and been given a vibrator, and that's how they have to practice before they have sex with that boy for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Which is traumatizing because some of the best sex is when you put a penis inside you soft. And that's another way, you were asking me about clients that might have pain.
Hmm.
Putting the penis in soft and then letting it become erect inside is way better for a vagina than doing that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And it
Wow.
reprograms both people's nervous systems to slow things down.
Which has got to be more pleasurable for both.
Well, slow, you're always, if anything is slower, you feel more pleasure. If it's like that, you're feeling some pleasure, but you're capping it. That
Mm,
feels
mm,
better.
mm. Oh, that's so interesting. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
it's why I get so passionate about, my training and training women to take this work out here because we're changing like a patriarchal society. We're changing the way the way sex has been programmed even into our own bodies.
mm,
Your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother, and 7 generations back, they've all been having that sex that way.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's why I say
And
that's
mo
why I say
and
it would be
most
normal
most
for
of
most
them have,
people. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, most of them have been tolerating for years.
Mm.
And women are built for enormous amounts of pleasure, not just in our genitals, but in our breasts, in our mouth.
Do you
Like,
think this can how would this contribute to chronic disease just in health? From a health perspective. So while lipedema can't be reversed,
well, if you're not having sex or you're not having solo sex or self-pleasuring as a woman, you aren't then cultivating oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. Now, they are the three feel-good hormones that even set you up for the day. I self-pleasure every morning.
wow.
Sometimes, with my own hands, and sometimes I have a very beautiful little teardrop external vibrator. And that changes especially in winter, because the serotonin helps my brain. The oxytocin helps me to be more open in my heart. It's the same drug that you make when you're breastfeeding for the letdown.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bonding drug. Um, and then dopamine is, that's what kind of makes us a bit self-aware, got plenty of self-confidence. They do say that, unfortunately, the drug ice, where you make enormous amounts of dopamine, um, that's not good, but in a smaller dose through self-pleasure, it's really good for your body. It's kind of that thing
Mm.
that says, I'm alert, what is it? I'm awake, alive, I'm alert, and I feel good,
Mm.
you
So there's
know?
not, because there's like I grew up with this thing of like if guys self-pleasure too much, it's problematic. Like, is it not the same for women? Like it's not the same for
Well,
women.
if it's sexual health wise, it is problematic for men if they do it habitually, because every time they release their semen, they're releasing a lot of their energy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe everybody should masturbate. I think it's unhealthy not to.
Mm.
Um, but as women, it's the opposite. We actually gain energy
Yeah.
through cultivating our sexual energy. We don't,
Interesting.
how we lose it is when we're bleeding. That's how we lose energy every month. That's why they say the first day of your period you should rest. But the great thing about women like me on the other side of menopause, I don't bleed anymore and I don't release eggs. And the energy that you use to release an egg out of your ovary could light up all of Australia.
Really?
So when I hear
Wow.
women say to me, I don't have as much energy now, and because I'm old and whatever, and I go, well, actually, that energy, when you learn, because I teach practices on how to bring that energy that you're not losing out of your ovaries every month, and to bring that back into your body, it actually fuels us.
So the postmenopause fatigue could be
Well,
um
I think you're the expert in that. I think that's diet. I think that's, sugar clouds your judgment. If
all
you
of
want to
that.
have a good sex life, stop having sugar.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I'm all about the mind, body, soul from all perspectives.
Yeah.
There's a component from each
Yeah.
area, but it I feel like it may help from a um mental health perspective,
Oh,
definitely
absolutely. I've
with
spoken
women
to
who are struggling.
psychologists now that are saying they're recommending to clients, female clients, to self-pleasure
Really? Wow. Oh,
because of that understanding of the hormones that women make when we're self-pleasuring.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This
And
has been like,
just
wow.
remember that self-pleasuring isn't taking anything away from anyone else. I mean, what it's actually doing is it's keeping your libido going
Mm,
so that it feels good. And so you're more inclined to actually then want to have sex with a partner or
yeah,
whoever.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? But it's
yeah.
like once, if you're not cultivating your own sexual energy in your pelvis through self-pleasure, your libido will drop away. It's like
Mm,
anything. It's like, when you just stop doing something in life, it might be a hobby, and then you just never go back to it.
you use it or lose
Because,
it. Yeah, you lose
yeah,
the
what you
skill.
enjoyed about it, you actually have to cultivate that.
Mm,
And I know for me, when I went on my journey, I didn't know much really, and I'd had two children. So I
mm,
decided that I had up leveled on all the mind stuff, on the body, the health, all of that. But I realized that I really didn't know much about pleasure or my sexuality. And I actually used to think, well, I remember my mum saying to me once, just make sure that, when you're married, you make sure your husband has sex once a week so he isn't grumpy.
wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's,
And
yeah, I
and
hear that
it's like, whoa.
about
Um,
me. Yeah.
that's yeah, well, I know some women,
Yeah.
I meet women my age and I talk about what I do and they go, oh, I can't be bothered with any of that stuff anymore. And they kind of say, oh yeah, no, I don't even look down there. But the bottom line is that we're a whole package.
Yeah.
Why cut yourself in half when your health gets affected when you are not cultivating a sexuality? And sure, you may not want to as an older, for different reasons, you may not want to have sex with another person, but why would you not have solo sex
Mm.
and make it as part of your health routine?
Metaphysically, lipedema is said to be a lack of joy in life.
Oh, well
I
then
know, that's what I mean. Like,
I could create a whole practice just for those women. A whole a solo sex practice. No, I'm
and
not
bring the
joking.
joy.
That's
No, I know you're
that's how
not.
my brain works, right? And it's not
Yeah.
just at your genitals. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like I have some beautiful practices that totally reconnect you to your joy, your just enjoying the fact that whatever size or whether your body feels soft or hard or pain or no pain, your body still, if you don't touch your body, if you don't love your body, just like a flower, it will fade away, it will die.
Mm,
And just because of an illness, a disability, or maybe after childbirth where there's fear or there's neglect, I think that's really sad. And I
mm,
was saying to you earlier that our life force energy creates life, it can destroy life, and it grows our hair, and it's this invisible thing that we can't see. And once you start shutting it down, you are shutting, like you are basically saying, well, I'm just going to pull the battery out of my body that keeps me joyful, that keeps me wanting to move through life because I've got this particular illness.
wow.
And
Jen,
you're
this
not
is
you're not the illness, like
no.
you can still enjoy sex no matter what.
Mm. It's reprogramming in our head what we think sex is, right?
Yes, and sex is not just penetration.
Mm,
It's not a means to an end.
mm.
You know, there is just so there's so many things I could tell you to put into a bag around sexuality that you would get a shock. And penetration is wonderful, but it's very low on the list. There's like so many other things,
You are
beautiful
amazing.
things.
And I want to end this by you saying what you think would be the most important for somebody with the likes of lipedema and painful fat syndrome and chronic disease and self-esteem. What would you say to them as your parting words?
Remember that um, your sexuality is also linked to your life force energy. It's linked to your self-worth. And every woman has her own signature. There isn't one thing, like you have your sexuality signature, Kylie, and I have mine. And I would say to all women, don't shut that down because maybe your body, you think your body has let you down. And one thing I do know, and I say this to all my clients, nothing in life ever stays the same. There's not an organ in your body that you had 7 years ago, or when you were 14, or when you were 20. Everything changes, rejuvenates. And I would say maybe consider going and getting a better body education around your sexuality, and find out what your blueprint is. Find out what arouses you. Find out what you like. Don't bury that because you're sick. Don't bury it. And it's every woman's birthright to feel pleasure. And I just want to say one thing to finish. If you identify as a woman and you have a vulva and you have a clitoris, it is only on your body for joy and pleasure. And it never changes, no matter how sick you get. It's still there. And when you activate it, it creates feel-good hormones that can support your health journey. So amazing. Why is it so taboo?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
That's what I would say. Oh. Don't leave your clitoris out of your health routine.
Right. Awesome. Jenny, amazing, amazing. And I'm going to put all the links to contact Jenny, to follow her work. If this is something that you think you want to do, that you probably should do, I'm going to leave all the links for Jenny in the description box below. So check her out. Thank you. I have to say.
Thanks, Kylie. Thanks talking about a taboo subject, which shouldn't be, because somebody had sex or you wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be.
Correct.
But thank you for making me feel so comfortable to be able to share.
Thank you. I love a good conversation about everything about to do with our bodies and our health and our well-being. So this has been one of the good ones. So thank you. And we'll see everybody on the next one. Bye.
Thanks, Kylie.